September 15th, 1983. 11 a.m. Atlantic Avenue, Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. A construction crew is working on a 6-story building, scaffolding up, cement mixers running, normal day. Then 2 cars pull up and park across the street. 9 men get out. The one leading them is 6 feet 5 inches, close to 280 pounds, wearing a leather jacket despite the September heat. His name is Clarence Big C. Williams, and he hasn't come to watch construction. Before we get into what happened next, you need to understand who these 2 men were and exactly why this moment mattered. Salvatore Gravano, better known on the streets as Sammy the Bull, was a captain in the Gambino crime family. Not a soldier, not some mid-level associate. A made man with real weight behind his name. He'd clawed his way up from nothing in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, earning a reputation not just for violence but for thinking. Sammy wasn't the kind of guy who shot first and figured it out later. He was calculated, patient, the kind of person who looked at a problem from every angle before deciding how to solve it. And he had a legitimate side. Alongside his mob work, Sammy ran several construction businesses, legal contracts, legal money, the kind that didn't attract federal attention. The job on Atlantic Avenue was one of those, a renovation contract, above board, nothing dirty about it. But the building happened to sit in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and Bedford-Stuyvesant belonged to Clarence Williams. Big C had built his operation over 2 decades, started as a kid running numbers, worked his way up to running the rackets across Bed-Stuy, Crown Heights, and parts of East New York. Numbers, narcotics, protection, he controlled it all. Local businesses paid him without complaint. Drug dealers bought product through his network. People in those neighborhoods understood the rules, and the number 1 rule was this: you operate here. You pay Big C. No exceptions. The Italian mob, though, they walked around black neighborhoods like the rules didn't apply to them. No tribute, no acknowledgement, just arrogance. And that had been eating at Big C for years. So when word reached him that a Gambino captain was running a construction job smack in the middle of his territory, he saw it as an opportunity to make a statement. He showed up with 8 armed men to send one message: nobody is exempt. Sammy was on site that morning, unusual for him, but this was a big job. Big C walked straight up to him. "You Sammy Gravano?" Sammy looked at him. "Who's asking?" "Clarence Williams. You're working in my neighborhood." Sammy understood immediately what this was. He didn't panic, didn't reach, just listened. Big C laid it out plainly: $40,000 cash by 5 o'clock that afternoon, or the crew doesn't work tomorrow and maybe some accidents happen, maybe a fire. Sammy's face didn't move, but his mind was already working. He had 3 options in front of him, and all 3 were terrible. Fight. He was carrying a .38 on him, but he was 1 man against 9. He'd be dead before he cleared his waistband. Pay. 40 grand wasn't just 40 grand. It was precedent. Other operators would hear about it. The Gambino family would hear about it. Paying tribute to a street boss in Brooklyn would follow Sammy everywhere. Walk away. Same problem. Leaving the job meant losing money and looking like he ran from a confrontation. None of these ended well. So Sammy did what Sammy always did. He looked for the option nobody expected. "I don't carry that kind of cash on a job site," Sammy said. "Give me until 5. Big C stepped closer. "You got 4 hours. Don't make me come find you." Sammy nodded. "Can I make a phone call first? I need to clear this with my boss. Some of that money isn't mine to give." Big C shrugged. "Go ahead." Sammy walked to his truck, pulled out his phone, one of those early Motorola brick phones, the size of a small toolbox, and made a call. But it wasn't to Paul Castellano, the boss of the Gambino family. It was to Tommy, his crew chief, working another site 3 miles away. He had 1 shot at this. He laid out the plan quickly, every detail, every timing mark. Tommy needed to be at a specific intersection in Midtown Manhattan at exactly the right moment. Not early, not late, exactly right. 3 minutes. Sammy hung up. He walked back over to Big C. "My boss wants to sit down with you." Big C blinked. Your boss, Paul Castellano, he heard what you're asking for. He wants to discuss it directly, boss to boss. Says he respects your operation enough to have that conversation in person. Now here's why this worked. Big C had spent years being dismissed by Italian mobsters, treated like he wasn't serious, treated like his territory didn't count. And now Sammy was standing in front of him saying that Paul Castellano, the head of the most powerful crime family in America, wanted to sit across from him like an equal. That hit exactly where Sammy intended it to. Big C was skeptical. Could be a setup. Could walk into that restaurant and never walk out. I'm not going alone, he said. Bring all 8, Sammy said. Castellano will have his people there too. Public place, neutral ground. We handle this like businessmen. Big C looked at his crew. They nodded. A sit-down was the proper way to resolve something like this. Where? Sparks Steakhouse, East 46th Street, Midtown. Big C knew the place. Everyone knew Sparks. High-end, well-known, the kind of restaurant where serious people met. We follow you, Big C said. Try anything, and we shoot you. No problem, Sammy said. Give me 5 minutes to tell my foreman. Sammy briefed his foreman, then walked back to his truck. Then he stopped. Hey, he called out to Big C. I got about 10 grand in the office trailer. Was going to bring it as a show of good faith. Give it to Castellano, have him pass it to you while we talk terms on the rest. Big C nodded. Make it quick. Sammy went into the trailer, came back 2 minutes later with a leather bag. 10,000! Let's move! He climbed in his truck. Big C and his men loaded into their 2 cars and fell in behind him. They crossed the Manhattan Bridge, rolled through Midtown. The whole drive, Big C's cars stayed right on Sammy's bumper. As they turned onto East 46th Street, Sammy slowed like he was looking for parking. That's when Tommy made his move. A van came down the block from the opposite direction. 6 Gambino associates inside, armed. They'd been waiting 3 blocks from Sparks for the last 40 minutes. When Sammy's truck turned right into an alley and disappeared, Tommy's van eased into the intersection and stopped, blocking both lanes. Big C's lead driver hit the brakes. Big C looked up. Sammy's truck was gone. He understood in an instant. It was a setup. Go around it. Get after him. But the van wasn't moving. Tommy stepped out, walked around to the hood, lifted it up like the engine had died. Big C jumped out. Gun out, started toward the van. 6 doors opened. 6 men stepped out, weapons up. Back in the car, one of them said. Calm, firm. The kind of calm that meant it. Big C stopped. 8 of his men were in the cars behind him. 6 guns were pointed at him from 10 feet away. Open street, middle of the day. He ran the math. He got back in the car. By the time Tommy's van finally pulled aside and Big C could move again, Sammy was already on the FDR Drive, heading back to Brooklyn on a completely different route. The leather bag on his passenger seat, the one he'd said contained $10,000, was stuffed with old newspapers. Big C called him that night. You played me? Yeah, Sammy said. I did. You owe me $40,000. I don't owe you anything. You came to my job with 8 men and threatened me. I found a way out where nobody got hurt. You should be glad about that. I'm going to come for you. No, Sammy said. You're not. Because if you do, I make 1 phone call, the real one this time, and then it's not me you're dealing with. It's the whole Gambino family. Is that worth it to you? Silence. Here's what happens, Sammy continued. You tell your people we reached an understanding. I finish my job, and we both move on. You're not weak for letting this go. You're smart, because the alternative is a war you can't win. Not because your guys aren't good, but because you're one crew and we've got hundreds of soldiers. Do the math. Big C hung up. He didn't attack the job site, didn't retaliate, because Big C was smart enough to know when he'd been outmaneuvered, and smart enough to know that pride wasn't worth bleeding out over. Sammy finished the contract, never paid $1. A couple of months later, Sammy was eating at a restaurant in Brooklyn. He looked up, and across the room was Clarence Williams. Big C saw him too. For a moment, neither man moved. Then Big C stood up, walked over, and asked if he could sit. Sammy nodded, hand near his waistband just in case. But Big C's hands were empty. He sat down, looked at Sammy, and then he smiled. That was slick, he said. The fake meeting, the van, the whole thing. Real slick. Had to do something, Sammy said. Couldn't pay, couldn't shoot my way out. Needed a third door. I was pissed, Big C said. Still am a little, if I'm being honest. Cost me on the street, but I respect it. You didn't hide behind your family name. You outsmarted me. That takes something. They shook hands. Big C stood up and walked back to his table. It was the last real confrontation they ever had. Years later, Sammy used this story as a teaching moment for younger Gambino members. You're going to face situations, he'd say, where fighting gets you killed and backing down makes you look weak. That's when you have to use your head. Find the third option, the one nobody sees coming. Someone always asked, what if there isn't one? There's always one, Sammy would say. You just have to be calm enough to look for it. Clarence, Big C Williams, died of a heart attack in 1994. He was 53 years old. Hundreds of people attended his funeral. By any measure, he'd built something real. Salvatore, Sammy the Bull, Gravano eventually became underboss of the Gambino family, or the second highest position in one of the most powerful criminal organizations in American history. In 1991, he broke his oath of silence, cooperated with federal authorities, admitted to 19 murders, and testified against John Gotti. Gotti died in prison. The building on Atlantic Avenue, still standing. People walk past it every day. They have no idea. That's it for today. Drop a comment if this one hit different. Subscribe for more stories about the moments that actually mattered. Where the smartest move in the room wasn't a bullet, it was a bluff. See you in the next one.